Hello, everyone. Okay, so this is one of my first videos, I think. Kind of, sort of, not really. I mean, I have one video up right now, but it's not very good, I guess. And it's really old. And it's when my name used to be Alex Nightmare, so. But, anyway, my name will be being changed soon because I don't like my name that I have currently on my YouTube channel right now. So that will be changed. But anyway, this is a story that I'm going to be reading called The First and the Last. It's a Creepypasta X reader, and it's by that person. I can't pronounce the name. And I will inform you that I'm going to be reacting along with you guys at some points in time. But I've already read the prologue, chapter 1 and chapter 2, because I had already done these videos, but I had to retake them because I lost them. So this is the first video. It's the prologue of this, obviously. And there was another chapter before this, but it's just the author saying a few words to us as the readers. But anyway, sit tight. Get comfortable. You're probably not gonna enjoy just staring at a moving screen that moves every once in a while. So you can do whatever you want by listening. It's up to you guys, cause you're the one listening and watching. But anyway, on to the video. Okay, 3, 2, 1. This story starts 200 years ago. No, not when Slenderman first appeared, for that was many, many centuries before. But when he obtained his first proxy. Now don't forget how many things can happen in 200 years. In 200 years, civilization can crumble. In 200 years, the world can be more populated than it did before. In 200 years, new technology can boggle the mind of the simple-minded. But these 200 years focus on a girl. She was about 11 at the time. Her family was poor. They lived in a house, fortunately, but didn't have enough food for the family. The girl had a sister and 2 brothers. The parents had a choice to put the children up for adoption, but in a time where money was hard to come by, no one would adopt them. That and the fact that the mother would be heartbroken if she had to give up her babies. Instead, the whole family worked. The father was a miner, while the mother was a seamstress. Also, I don't know what that means, so if you guys could post in the comments what it would mean, that would be amazing. Her sister, only a few years older, was a waitress at a nearby pub, and her older brother, a year older than her, she worked in the mines with her father. The other brother, age 7, worked with her. They both handed out newspapers, buying them with other kids, hoping to sell the stack they bought that day. It wasn't as rigorous as the other jobs, but it was as dangerous as the other jobs. It wasn't as dangerous as the other jobs, but it was still dangerous for a child. A careless driver could run them over, and with the wooden wheels of the carriage or the horse that pulled them could stomp on their unfortunate souls underneath them. In the summer, the sun would beam down on them, easily dehydrating anyone standing under it for hours. The winter could bring colds, make the work harder. And those strangers that stand on the road, you never know what they might do. Well, the story starts off in the street while she was working. Next, chapter 1 is now starting. It's the prologue and chapter 1 this story, and maybe chapter 2. I'll think about it. As the little girl hastily pulled her younger brother's hand, she muttered to herself, "They were late. If they were lucky, There would be at least a stack left by the time they got in front of the line. Selling newspapers only got them around 60 cents, 30 cents for each of them. Without any money they made each week, there would be no way their family would even have enough food for everyone. Charging pedestrians, riding through alleys, jumping over obstacles, they finally made it to see the one stack on the counter. The two faces dropped as they stared at the counter. The man behind it, the man was a family friend, one that visited the girl's family often. His name was Ewald. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. He was a refugee from Holland who came to America because he hated the monarchy there. He owned a newspaper shop and also helped kids get money by having them buy stacks and sell them at a higher price. He smiles at the children before seeing their distraught expressions. He frowned a little before speaking. "Hey, kiddos. Why were you so late?" His face then turned into a smile. "Don't worry, kids." He pulled another stack of newspapers from behind the counter. "I saved you a stack. I noticed you were here at the normal time, so I kept it for you." The siblings' faces lit up at the sight of the other stack, quickly paying for them. They ran off to their usual spot, separating, trying to get noticed. The girl yelled the headlines, sometimes catching the passersby's attention, but unfortunately business was extremely slow due to the recessions that put her family into this mess. It took hours for her to even sell a newspaper, let alone 10 of them, even though each one cost 3 cents. The money would be better spent buying a pound of rye flour, an item with the same cost and a main ingredient for bread. At this rate, it would take her all day to sell them, so she pushed on, waiting for a perfect customer to buy her newspapers. After 10 hours, she still had 2 more newspapers left. People weren't very interested anymore, and her voice was certainly sore. A man walked up to her and smiled kindly as his Bristol face. "Good afternoon, dear. Can you hand me the headline of the newspaper?" he asked, with a soft voice. The girl nodded her head quickly and picked up the paper, reading the headline. It aloud. March 6, 1916. Jews expelled from Free City of Luckburg, Germany. She looked up at the man, hopeful, gleaming in her eyes. He chuckled before patting her head. "I'll take one, please." She nodded her head and handed it to him. "Thank you, sir." He nodded, handing her a dime before leaving. "Sir, this is too much." He looked back at her before answering. "Keep the change." He walked away, leaving the girl to stare where he was once standing. She looked back at the newspaper, wondering what the best method of ridding it would be. After taking a moment to think, she ran towards the pub her sister worked at. After all, the drunks might be so tipsy that they might not think twice about buying a paper. Arriving a couple minutes later, she tried once again to get the attention of the passers-by. Most of the people were stumbling around like the dumbling idiots they were, some even collapsing on the floor. She started yelling the headlines again, getting the attention of some. She walked about, waving around through the small crowd. A particular pair, who were especially buzzed, were bumped into by the little girl as she passed by. The tallest one growled at her, stopping the child in her tracks. "Watch where you're going, you little twit." She took a step back as the man and his partner lumbered towards her. "I think we need to teach you a lesson, don't you think, Willie?" The shorter of the two sneered at the scared kid while taking out a pocket knife. "I think you're right, Johnny." The other one smirked. The girl instantly took off at the last line, scrambling to the woods. It would be the safest place, right? I mean, with her being so small, it'd be easier for them to lose her. Well, she was right about that part, but she miscalculated a bit. While running into the forest, she forgot to make sure she knew the path out. It would be hard to get back since the girl came to the forest. It wouldn't be hard to get back since the girl came to the forest a couple times a week to sit down and relax. Though She wasn't very concerned about that at the moment. Something else caught her attention. If she looked off to the distance between the trees, she could see something white. Her eyes widened when she realized what it was. Running over toward it, she sneezed a bit due to the cold weather of March. Finally, she made it to the patch of snow. It was fresh, just the product of a blizzard that had occurred not too long ago. She briskly scooped a hand of it up, molding it into another perfect figure made of a collection of ice crystals called snowflakes. The snowball didn't have a purpose. It was just nice to hold, a soothing object to the girl. A sound, one that was hard to describe back then, but one we know now as static, filled the girl's ears. Her hands flew to her ears. It did nothing to stop the dreaded noise, but actually made it a bit louder. The poor child couldn't handle it anymore and sank to her knees, tears pouring out of her eyes. She looked at the sky, trying to take her mind off the noise. Noticing it was around the time she would be heading home, she sobbed harder. She had a splitting headache, and her vision was blurry from the salt water. The last thing she saw before she blacked out was a tall, tree-like man wearing a black tailcoat and matching black slacks, stepping out of the bushes. Chapter 2. Should I read it is the question. I guess. Her eyes slowly fluttered open, revealing the dark, cold world around her. She sat up, trying to see her surroundings. The air was moist with a hint of with a mossy, earthy smell. The cave was filled with sounds of beetles that chirped around her, canceling out any other sound that might come her way. Unsteadily, she stood, dusting off her dress. She spun around, trying to take in the darkness. She still couldn't see a thing. There was a faint light, barely even there. She tried squinting, but that didn't help. Soon her eyes adjusted. She looked around again, this time caught very little detail. It was an improvement, though. She could finally see the divots in the ground. She could see the little patches of moss on the wall. She could see a white and black rock in the corner. She looked, white and black rock? She looked back to see the rock shift. It started to move, seeming to unfold like paper, becoming taller every passing second. Soon the figure's head touched the ceiling, or at least she thought so. It was hunched over, looming over the child. Terrified, she scooted back as the thing lumbered towards her. As her back hit the wall, the figure bent down. It became abundantly clear to the girl that it didn't have eyes, or a mouth, or nose. As it scared to death her when it spoke to her. "Are you okay, child?" The voice was an overwhelming wave of many different voices. The sounds sang perfectly. It was deep, but if you listened closely, you could hear a high-pitched voice, or two. Her eyes started to water. She tried to meld into the wall, failing, of course. The man, she now identified it as, started to back off without making any sudden movements. He sat back down, watching her intently, as if begging her to acknowledge him in a positive way. Every couple minutes the man scooted forward a bit. This would result in the girl whimpering and huddling into the corner more. Soon, he was no more than a few inches away. Gently, he lifted his hand towards the girl, setting it on her shoulder, flinching slightly. She made no attempt to move out of his reach. It may have been due to the fact that she was concerned, but for the glass half full people out there, let's just say that she started warming up to him. Still moving slowly, he pulled the girl towards him, putting his other hand on the remaining shoulder space. The girl tried to break free, only making the man hold tighter. "Those men," he began. "Did they hurt you?" Confusion took over her features. This man was something she could fear, right? Yet he cared for her well-being. Should she trust this being? Relaxing slightly, she nodded her head. The man spoke again. That's good. When I saw those men chasing you, I was concerned for your well-being. Oh God, fourth whale break. Now, reader, you may be a little confused on why the Slender Man was so kind to the child. Well, he was a murderer then, like he's now. But back then, he had a soft spot for children. Just because he's a cold-blooded killer doesn't mean that he doesn't have a weakness. The girl giggled a little, wiping her tears off. The man seemed happy to know she was fine. Cautiously, he took his hand off of her shoulder, afraid she would try to run off again. Instead of doing that, she walked up to him and gave him a hug. "Thank you," she whispered. He tensed up before nodding and hugging back. The girl had warmed up to him, and she trusted him. He trusted her too, not worrying that she might try to run away anymore. The girl stepped back after a few seconds, a smile on her face. Her being young, she was curious. "Do you live here, sir?" The man nodded. "Yes, I do, dear." A rare expression flew to her face. "Do you live here by yourself?" "Yes." "Does anybody ever visit you?" The man shook his head. This made the girl upset. "That sounds lonely. Why doesn't anybody ever visit you? Do you have a mom and dad? How about brothers and sisters? And what about friends? And no The man cut her off. "You ask a lot of questions, little one. I don't have any parents, but I do have siblings. I have many, many brothers and a sister. We live everywhere in the world, so we don't see each other very often. I don't have any friends or pets, though. Not many animals would want to be friends with a monster like me, let alone people." The girl frowned before smiling and exclaiming, "Well then, how about you become my friend? Even though I have friends, you don't, and you know what they always say, you can never have too many friends." The man smiled before thanking her with a nod of his head. She smiled giddily and bounced up and down at the thought of them being friends. The man stood up and looked down at her. Something was nagging him. "This girl will be important. Keep her as an ally, or she will be the death of you," a voice in his head told him. The child started to get nervous. Why was he staring at her, and for so long? Did you do something wrong? He saw the apprehensive expression on her face. It didn't occur to him that he could just read her mind like he did with his other victims. Something he would later regret. "Don't worry, child, I was just thinking." The rare expression soon melted off her face, replaced by a wide grin. "Well, sir, if we're going to be friends, I must know your name." The old male chuckled before answering. "It's Slender Man, child. What's your name?" "It's Yuki." Ah, yay. Oh, that was chapter 2. Never mind. Well, I feel stupid. Oh, wait, I said chapter 2 in the beginning. Never mind. We're good. I thought I said chapter 3. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to end the video. But before I do, I wanted to say that I am making a Creepypasta OC. And I'm making up his story and everything. And after that, I'm gonna make another story, but I don't know about what yet. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed my, reading for now. And I think I'm going to post another video either tomorrow or on Tuesday. But anyway, thank you all for listening. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you all have a very good night, good day, or good evening. Goodbye.